So you're very welcome to this lecture where I want to talk about how you can become a top-rated seller on Fiverr just like myself. Now, I think we've mentioned it a few times, but just to remind ourselves, the top-rated seller status is really a goal that you should be working towards for one simple reason, and that is traffic. It says here, that top-rated seller will receive on average 15 to 18 times more traffic than a non-level seller, and 3 to 4 times more traffic than a level 2 seller. So that's a lot of traffic, and particularly when you think about the alternatives are you promote yourself, you do self-promotion, or you even do paid advertising. But the easiest way is just to play by the rules and make Fiverr happy, and they're really going to reward you and send you a lot more traffic. So that's just the easiest way to be successful, is play by Fiverr's rules. Now, how does that actually translate into more traffic? Well, if you look at the gigs here, you can see under high rating that this is where they put a lot of the top rated sellers. So you can see that this yellow badge with a T in it, you can see that the first 8 gigs there are top rated sellers. So that's really where Fiverr puts the top rated sellers, and that's why they get that much more traffic. Now, looking at the actual criteria, they say maintain a high star rating. So that's why I spent time talking about how to encourage your buyers to give you reviews, how to mutually cancel gigs to avoid negative reviews, exceptional customer care. I think what they're looking at here is your inbox and your response rate, and also things like, do you leave buyer reviews? So I showed you a whole lecture on that and how I think that improves kind of communication and personalization, but I think they also consider that when looking at customer care. Have a low cancellation rate. So important thing I want to distinguish here is that if you mutually cancel a gig, it will not affect your cancellation rate. So here's an actual quote from one of the support team on that. As a mutual cancellation will not affect your cancellation ratio compared to cancellations done by support. So that's why it's okay to mutually cancel gigs, and it's actually even better to do that, to take the initiative to solve the problem for the buyer, because the alternative is the buyer has to go to Fiverr support and then they have to cancel the gig. That'll affect your ratio. And obviously the reason they're encouraging you to do that, because if you resolve the problem yourself, it's less resources and time from them. So that's just a clarification there. Mutually cancelling gig will not affect your cancellation rate. It actually helps your cancellation rate. Community leadership. So I didn't do any community leadership stuff. Like I haven't been featured on the blog, or I don't participate that much in the forum, although I do look at it a lot. So I'm not sure how important that factor is really. Volume of sales. I think that's really why it took me 6 months to become a top rated seller, because I have to build up that volume of sales. I couldn't give you an actual number now, but you can definitely know it's in the hundreds of sales. So consistency is key, as they say. So you can't just be a good seller one day and a bad seller the next day. You need to be consistently doing all of these things. Now, obviously, where does the process start for you? Well, it'll start on being a new seller, and I would write this down and maybe put it up on a post-it on your wall or something like that, that in the first 30 days, what you want to get is 10 sales. And this is why I've encouraged you to promote your gig initially yourself to kickstart that process. And as we said, encourage people to leave reviews and also cancel gigs where you think there's going to be a negative review. Moving on, how do you become a level 2 seller? Well, you need 50 orders in 2 consecutive months. So that should be your next goal, so you can really push on to become a level 2 seller. And then from there, as we've said, to become a top rated seller. That'll be a longer gap probably. So you can probably get to level 2 maybe within 2 or 3 months. But becoming a top rated seller will probably take you a bit longer. In my case, it was 6 months. So wrapping that up, I hope you understand why you should be aiming to be a top rated seller, because it really delivers a whole boatload of traffic to your gig, and that means more money and more sales for you. Now, how do you get there? A lot of it is about consistency and over delivering, getting reviews, keeping the customers happy, responding to messages, and reviewing buyers as well. Having a profile as well that has, you know, a real name or, you know, a pseudonym, but with a real person's image. And videos, I think, really help as well, because the top rated seller status is manually selected. I think they really like that factor of trust and the social marketplace. So I think you have your best chance if you use those features as well. And finally, we've talked about your path to becoming a top rated seller. So I would really write down those goals: 10 sales in the first month, 50 sales in 2 consecutive months. That will get you as far as being a level 2 seller. And from there, you can move on to being a top rated seller as well. So I really hope that helped just add my experience to what Fiverr has outlined here.